What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the E-commerce Influence Podcast. My name is Austin Brawner, and I am fired up to have you here today with my guest, Mandy Butera. She is an awesome guest today. She was a member of the Coalition in Intentional Wealth. We just finished up an 8-week program, and Mandy's got a really interesting story. She started her business, her journey as an entrepreneur at age 50, and started a brick and mortar company, originally a clean beauty and aerial yoga studio in Bend, Oregon, and has been on a wild journey through COVID to convert it into a brick and mortar and online business. She's been hitting sales highs. She doubled her business in the last year, and has really a ton of practical knowledge about what's working, what's not working, how her journey as an entrepreneur has evolved with the challenges we're all facing, like COVID. A couple of really good tips about how to integrate brick and mortar and online, and like what's been working for her, specifically around a lot of success around email and how they think about that. It's been a really good episode. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Mandy. She's awesome, and yeah, let's dive right into it here because she's got a lot to share, and it's going to be a great episode. Mandy, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I'm really excited to be here.
I know you've been dealing with some smoke up there, up in Bend. How are you feeling? Are you guys getting through it?
Yeah, we're doing great. You know, we just, it's like anything else. You just deal with whatever comes your way these days and make it work. Yeah, resilience, yeah.
I was just actually had a podcast I was recording with Jay Campbell, who you know. And we were talking about this actually exact thing, which is, so much has changed in the last year, and there's a lot of like systems that have broke, whether that's like manufacturing, whether it's your 3PL, all these different things that there's not much you can do except adjust and try to like flexibility, and being able to react is actually a huge advantage in this time where you can't really rely on those sorts of things.
You can't just go for status quo. There's always something that's going to come your way. Especially in the world of small business. It's pretty hilarious. So you just got to find a way around it.
Well, I'd love to start there because I know you have a very interesting story. How did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Well, I was an account executive for a very large cosmetic company for about 20 years. And one day, and I used to call on the malls everywhere and spent a lot of time in my car driving, and one time pulled up to a mall and just said, I just can't do this anymore. I'm over it. And I pretty much saw that the job that I was in was going to be ended. I thought was going to end in the next 5 to 10 years. And I just didn't want to be there anymore. And so my husband and I actually owned a home here in Bend, Oregon. That's where I live now. And we were in Denver, and we just decided to up and quit our jobs. Both of us quit, sold our house there within 24 hours, packed up a U-Haul, and moved. I referringly laugh about it now, but we moved our 16 bicycles and ourselves here to Bend, and decided that this is where we were going to live, and we would figure it out when we got here. And so when I got here, I took a year off and ran around in the woods and tried to, shake off the old persona of that career that I had, and thought about what I wanted to do next. And I knew before I left what I wanted to do, but I needed a year just to play around out here. So I did that. And then I decided to go ahead and open my own business, which is what it is now, Ren and Wild Clean Beauty. But it's had a few iterations before we got to this exactly 3 years ago. But that's pretty much, I just was fed up and wanted out and wanted a better lifestyle. And Bend, it's gorgeous here. Don't move here, but it's gorgeous here. Right? Yeah. So everybody says, don't move here. I'm like, all right. Yeah. But it's beautiful.
I feel a little bit similar with Austin, Texas. We moved here 6 years ago. I actually don't have the mindset of don't move here, but I'm just starting to be on that because there's been a lot of people have moved here in the last 6 years. It's brought a lot of good things, but it's changed. So what does one do with 16 bicycles?
Yeah, right. Isn't that silly? We used to race like single speed mountain bikes, and my husband comes from a long background of racing. But we have a bicycle for every occasion. My dog has a bike. He rides in the cargo bike. I have a single speed mountain bike and a mountain bike and a road bike and just a single speed town bike. And I have a Hello Kitty cruiser. It's ridiculous. I need to get rid of a few bikes. But yeah, it's very bike culture here. It's a very outdoor culture here. And the trails are amazing. Like, it's just so much fun here.
I just got back. I was in Amsterdam, and also another massive bike culture. And one of the days we hopped in, we rented a boat, and there was a guy who was cruising us around through the canals, and he was a local, and I was asking him about it, and he was similar. I think he had 12 bikes, and was, he's like, that's just part of the culture. You're just always cruising around on bikes. And, we're like, well, what about theft? Right. Cause you see bikes there everywhere as far as you can see. And he was like, if you're concerned about theft, you just haven't been here long enough. Right. Like it's going to happen, and it happens. It's just it's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of living there.
Having a bike. Yeah. I've had some bikes stolen. So yeah.
But yeah, it's very, that sounds like a really good way to actually transition. So you took a year, started to kind of get clear on what you wanted to create, and then launched Rent and Wild. How many years ago did you launch it?
Well, I formed the LLC in this month, September, in 2016, and then opened as a pop-up shop in October, and started doing like little pop-ups. But the first part of that business was an aerial yoga studio and clean beauty. So I was a master aerial yoga teacher, and I really wanted to create like this wellness center here in Bend for people to come to, because I had a lot of injuries from all the mountain biking, and I really wanted to help people facilitate healing through aerial yoga, which is an amazing way to do it, and yoga. And so we ended up having this in a fantastic studio for about a year and 3 months until our lease was negated by somebody, which is a long story, doesn't matter. But we had this beautiful studio, and we had all these really great yoga acts coming out, and we had the clean beauty, and it was really like this wellness thing. And we were going to have a juice bar and a spa and all this stuff until we lost the lease, and that just kind of boom killed us. And then about
how long did you had that? How long did you have that before the lease ended?
A year and 3 months. So so I was devastated when I lost that lease, and spent a good couple months in the summer buying myself a lot of flowers and riding my bike and crying. And then it was just like, forget it, okay, we're just going to move away from that and go to the clean beauty, which is really who I am and what I'm about, because my background is all in beauty. And so I decided to really focus on that. And so then we had to find another location. And so we had to go back to popping up again in people's spaces, which is really tough to do, because it's like having a new roommate, right? And you need to be really careful about that until we could find a space, because here in Bend, it's very difficult to find retail space in the right places. And then we were fortunate enough 3 years ago to get a beautiful space and converted it. And around a year into that, converted to Shopify. And then everything just started to take off.
Well, it truly is a beautiful spot. And I have not been there but I can see from the pictures that you've taken on the website, on the Google reviews, you've done an incredible job of creating that, like, that feeling of, it is your brand, is what it is ultimately.
Yeah, for sure.
So fast forward a little bit. So you've got the store, and how was it going as you guys are growing the brick and mortar? Mm-hmm. What's the story of the brick and mortar? How did it go over those first couple of years? And then what happened when COVID hit?
Yeah. So the brick and mortar, I had down. I knew it because I had 20 years of training with my prior cosmetic job, correct? Right? Like, I had all this education in there. And so I knew brick and mortar and retail really well, and events. And then the minute COVID hit. And by the way, when COVID hit, our building's a 100-year-old building. They decided to renovate our building as well. And they forgot that I was in there. They thought everybody was closed because the town was closed, but I was still trying to find a way to do business by doing it online. And so I was still handing product out the door. I was like, this is not going to take me down. I haven't gone down yet. I'm not going down now. And so I realized when COVID hit that I needed e-commerce help because I think I didn't understand how powerful e-commerce could be in the right hands or the right platform. And I didn't feel like I had the right platform, and I really need to break up with the people that I was with in order to find the right platform. And I think that's where I stumbled upon you and the e-commerce, because I couldn't find help, not here in town, not online, that I felt like wasn't just throwing money away to somebody. And so when I converted to Shopify and then found the e-commerce group, I was like, oh, okay, I have a lot to learn. And there's a lot I could execute here and make this worthwhile. And then we doubled our business through COVID is what happened. So
that's phenomenal.
Right.
We'll go into that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So you're sitting there, I guess, just to paint a picture. It's March of 2020, and how are you feeling in March? Like what's going on there? Because it's starting to hit. You're realizing things are closed down. You're in there shipping and trying to handing it to people outside the door. Yeah. Walk me through what happens over the next 6-8 months there.
Well, March, we were closed down March, April, May, and we were in a temporary shell of a store, still trying to hand product out the door. We were trying to do self-care for people who are locked at home, right? So that was March, April, May, and the building was being renovated. So then June, we were allowed back into our space in our building. June, God, it's already September. So June, I think I had joined the e-com prior to that. Well, let me back up.
I think, you joined the coalition around that time.
Yeah, but prior to that, I had switched to Shopify. So I had joined the coalition and then realized I needed to do something with my website. So that was July, August, September. So September, I was like, we really got to switch. And so we made the switch, and October 1st, we started with the new Shopify platform, and then just basically started doubling business. It was crazy. We just got so much smarter about email marketing. And these are all things that I learned in e-com platform like Klaviyo. I didn't even know that was so much better because I was so over some of those other platforms like MailChimp and all the rest of them. I didn't feel like that they were very good platforms in order to get them.
They're just not great for Shopify businesses.
No, they're not. And there wasn't great follow-up, or there's no flows and all that kind of stuff. All these things I've learned this year. And so I was super excited when we switched over, and all of a sudden I started seeing, oh my God, this really does work. This is amazing. And then I started learning the things you don't know that you don't know. It's crazy. And so here we are a year later. It's September. So we've just kept growing the business, and we rehired all our staff back, and now I've hired more staff. And then this August, this past month, it was our biggest month in the history of the company. It was unbelievable. I still am like, what just happened here? Like, what happened? Oh my God, this is amazing. So it's been phenomenal.
That's awesome. And I would love to go kind of more in depth into like what you learned, maybe starting with the question of, because you do have a lot of experience in brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest difference in your opinion of running a brick and mortar successfully versus e-commerce store? And what advice do you have for people that are in a position where they may be thinking about transitioning?
Yeah, I think that all came to light at when COVID started. When you're running a brick and mortar, I see this all the time in small businesses. Nobody's collecting email information. Nobody's collecting any of your information. They're just like, yeah, thank you, and send you out. You paid for it, and then they never talk to you again. And to me, that was kind of shocking. because I've always been a believer of collecting information coming from the cosmetic industry anyway, where you need to always follow up with clients. And
Sure,
so
all replenishables.
Yeah, it's all replenishables.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be insane not to collect that information and collect it in a way that's meaningful, that you can use it at a later date. And so when I was trying to get help here in town, nobody was collecting any information. And I was kind of stunned. And so I think that that was probably the number one thing that we did well to start with, is that we always started collecting the information so that we could use it.
And that was in store?
That was in store, yeah. Just at that level, I started collecting.
So that's one of the reasons probably why you had the success with email marketing, is that you were already primed because you've been using it in store. How did you do this? Because I have another client he runs like 5 cafes, really, really wonderful cafes, and also has an e-commerce store that he's just launching. And he's been looking for a creative way to capture emails. Do you have anything creative that you guys did, or how did you capture people's emails from the store and move them to online?
First and foremost, as a rewards program. I mean, even as a cafe, if you buy 10 cups of coffee, I should get a free cup of coffee at some point, and you need my information in order for him to track that, correct? And so if you had any type of a reward that you're instigating that the customer will come back and see you, or makes them want to come back and see you, or you're giving them some kind of knowledge that makes them want to come learn more, that's ideal. And that's what I think we've always done well, is that, next time that you come to see us, we might be having this event. That could be in a cafe for sure too as well. But it depends on the platform. If they're on Square, which is restaurant driven, right? They can just use Square's restaurant rewards program or whatever it is, and start getting phone numbers and emails. And we that I think is the easiest, simplest thing you can do, is give them a reason to come back.
For sure. And you guys have had the rewards program. That's something that's been built in. How did that translate to? Are you still doing it with your store, your online store? How is it translated? Has there been any differences between what's worked in the store versus what works for you online?
Yeah, it's that's been interesting, because a lot of our business is located right here in Central Oregon. And so I see a lot of my clients going online to look and see what we have, and may even add to cart, and then decide they want to come in and see us because they have a question, because it's cosmetic driven. It could be a foundation color, especially right now, everybody's foundation colors are changing. So we need to go back and rematch, or they may call us and do a FaceTime consultation. And so they won't finish the cart at that point. Yeah. So we have that going on. And then we drop an event like we did this last month. We dropped 3 different events. 2 of them sold out within 24 hours. And then our big event happened right after that. All those emails got opened by local and customers that aren't in town. And so it's interesting to kind of see whether they're going to come in right away, or if they're just going to close the sale right there at the email. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I think so. I think I was just more like behind the technology. Are you to be able to run something in store, because you're using Shopify POS as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's Shopify.
And so the rewards program that you guys use, is that one that translates like online and in person? It's the exact same. Do you have any software recommendations?
Yeah, Smile. We're on Smile. Okay. Yeah, that one's been a good one for us. And we got a lot of help from our web developer to try and pick one. And that ties in with Klaviyo really well too. So all 3 of them talk to each other really well. So everything comes out of the store. So whether it's an online order or an in-store order, and all the points go, everybody has an account, and it can be used online or it can be used in store. So everything talks to each other. And that I don't think was possible a few years ago.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, when I first started. It wasn't. I had all kinds of patchwork things going on, and that's what made it so complicated. And now it's so much more seamless.
What do you think makes a good rewards program? And the reason that I'm bringing this up and kind of diving into it a little bit more is because you had a background in this, and you've got one that's successful. And a lot of people are not able to crack the code on making a good rewards program. What do you think makes a difference between a good one and a bad one? And assuming that you have a need for a rewards program, meaning that you sell some sort of replenishable product.
Right. Yeah, a good one and a bad one. First of all, you have to be consistent. You need to stick with something, pick something and let it work itself out, because it takes a while for rewards to get up and going. It can take several months for clients to accumulate enough points or to make that reward attainable for them. We chose to use a dollar reward. I looked at a bunch of cosmetic different companies. A lot of them use, they change samples all the time. And that wasn't appealing to me, because on our end, that would have been a lot of manual work for us to change it all the time. And so we just decided to go with a straight dollar award, and that has built upon itself over time. And I was very afraid of it at first, because I thought, what if everybody decides to redeem their rewards? And then I'm in trouble, right? And it just doesn't happen that way. You know, it's really less than like 2% of your sales. Sometimes it's only 1% of your sales. But they do build over time, and you have to be consistent, and you have to stay with it. And then on our back end, you get follow-up emails, or those flows are already built in. Hey, you were just in, you just earned a $10 reward or a $20 reward. And they
so those all facilitate.
Mm-hmm. Everything's built in, so everything just automatically flows. It's amazing.
I've seen the same thing from my end with the rewards programs. Like, it's good to have one, but like 70% or 60% of it is in the follow-ups and the communication about it to remind people and making it clear, because it's, you know, you look at your website more than anybody else does, and you're familiar with all your stuff. But most of the time, people just bop around, they take a look at it, and then they move on, and they don't have any idea.
Ours has a pop-up that says join our rewards program. And then we're also, our consultants in the store are really good about talking about it, saying, oh my God, you want to give me your email address, because let me tell you about our rewards program. It's amazing. You're going to be back. And so it's all in how you present it, as anything in life, you know. It needs to be done positively and fun.
I would love to go in a little bit. So what do you think made the difference? You talked about emails, one of the things that led to you doubling sales over the last year. What are other things that you look back on and you're like, if you were to do like kind of a post-mortem and say, well, I look back at the last 12 months, what went well for you? What's moved the needle? What are the things that you're proud of that you accomplished over the last 12 months?
This is kind of a backwards way of doing it, but we tried to do marketing with social media, and you've listened to me cry about this a couple times. I tried to do social media marketing with like a media company, and we just weren't ready for it. I didn't know enough myself as an entrepreneur about the back end of Facebook to really understand how advertising could work for us and how much I would need to spend. And unfortunately, I dipped my toe into it, not ready, and spent money I shouldn't have spent. The minute, and this came upon us in the Intentional Wealth, when I learned through our pod group, actually, that I needed to actually back out of that and walk away from it, and that put more into the email marketing and into the social media marketing that we're doing on our own, and not pay a media marketing company, we would be better off. And that sounds counterintuitive, but it was huge for us. I think it truly is what made the difference of jumping from one level to another, rather than trying to fight something that I really wasn't able to do right now. Maybe in the future I can, but I wasn't ready right now. And so I think learning that difference of what I'm ready for as an entrepreneur to grow the business, has been really important. And learning that and being able to take back something that isn't working and push forward into something else that is. That's been huge for us.
That's huge. I think there's like a lot of incentive. I mean, and I try not to be guilty of it on this podcast, but it's just natural, because you're talking to a lot of people and you can hear what worked for somebody else. And it's this, you get naturally connected to an idea that somebody else shared. And you're like, well, I think that worked for them. Maybe it'll work for me. Right. And the hardest thing is to then connect the dots and be like, well, do I have enough bandwidth to make all of these things happen at the same time? Yeah. Usually you don't.
It's like that shiny squirrel just ran by me, and I'm like, that looks amazing. That's so good. Yeah. That was another thing I had to learn, how to just turn it off and ignore it all. I pretty much delete everything that comes in my inbox now, because I'm like, no, I can't. Stick with this and make it work. Yeah.
And keep moving things forward.
The other thing I learned too is that we already had a really good following on social media, and I didn't need to advertise through that. The following that we have they're already, every time we post something, either ordering something online because they saw it with us, or they're coming in store. So we already had that kind of influence going, and I should just stuck with that and focused on the email marketing. Things you learn.
And there may also be a middle ground, right? Where you learn enough that you can just amplify what you're already doing to make sure that there's more reach, right? Like take the stuff that you're having success, amplify it, and run some lower level that can be done in-house. At least that's my take on it, is exploring a lot of this sort of thing.
Well, a lot of it is really, too, is do you really know everything that you're doing about whatever platform it is? And are you really utilizing every single tool in there that you could to make it work most effectively for you, for the biggest bang for your buck? And sometimes I feel like as entrepreneurs, it's really easy to get a quarter of the way in and say, oh, I got this, and then move on to the next thing when you really didn't get in as far as you should have.
For sure. Well, back to the question. I would love. So that did not work for you, but then ending the relationship has kind of pulled you back. Yeah. What else besides the email and doubling down on that? Which honestly, that comes from your foresight in collecting emails before. It would have been a lot more challenging of a transition, I think, if you didn't have all those emails. What else has worked for you in this transition?
The other thing is getting really smart about our supply chain and our vendors, and creating really good relationships with our vendors, and it's another thing of going really deep in with specific vendors rather than having too many vendors and too many shiny things so that it's distracting. And so I've been able to, since I've hired more help, to be able to dive deeper into the assortments that we're able to bring and the education to the client that we're able to provide, and therefore getting more committed clients to us.
That's great. Just kind of like just narrowing down, especially from you ultimately could have pretty much unlimited SKUs, or like a huge range of SKUs. And so just kind of focusing down the ones that have worked for you. How do you think about that? Do you like look back every couple of months and say these are the ones that are selling and these are not, and then getting rid of SKUs, or how do you pare down?
Every week. I look at our A, B, and C sellers, and I was really quite shocked when I first looked at it to see how many C sellers we had. And then I had to dive in deeper and really disseminate, are they C sellers because we haven't had them long enough, or they ran out of stock, or they're truly a C seller and we just need to cut the fat. And so we have been slowly going through and just cutting. I didn't want to do it all at once in case it disrupted the flow of clientele thinking, oh my God, things are disappearing that they love. So we just slowly started trimming that fat, but and then staying really deep in those A sellers and making sure that we're ordering quicker and always being in stock and never be out of stock in those A sellers. So
you say A, B, and C seller. Do you have like metrics that you look at that you say, how do you think about those?
That's all in Shopify too. It's amazing. So Shopify has a thing called Stocky. That it's a great way to forecast what you need for stock, but it also will tell you what your turn rate is on all of your products, and where some of these are just, we shouldn't even be carrying them. So that report I can pull up on a weekly basis, which I do, and I take a look at it. And then we start deciding, okay, like right now I have a vendor I need to let go of that I've had since the beginning, but it's just not performing, and so I need to let it go so that I can get deeper into the vendors that are.
I actually think that that's a really underrated exercise that you go through, and the way I think about it is kind of like brick and mortar, taking that store and putting it online, right? I think one of the challenges is that there's unlimited opportunity to stock things and stock SKUs and go wider and wider and wider. And that's in software and in e-commerce. But if you think about it, like, well, what if you just had a limited number? If you were designing your store, like you have designed your own store, you could only stock the things that people want. And so I think it's an easier mindset if you're thinking about your store, like, what if this was a physical location? Would we keep this in there or not?
Right. I buy all my stock up front. So we don't do, like I'm bootstrapped, everything. So everything I do is up front. So I hold all of my own stock. I'm not negotiating with vendors or doing drop shipping or any of that kind of stuff. So you have to be really cognizant of what you're buying. Yeah. And then you have to be really smart and think about what's going to happen at holiday. Is it still going to be smoky? Like, what smoke monster is coming next, and how do you buy for that? Right. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, this year I'm taking the stop creating stuff on my own and trying to reinvent the wheel and really look at what our vendors are offering and ride that pony, because one of our vendors does an incredible amount of retargeting on social media, and so people run into us all the time for that product. And so my goal through the holidays is to take what they're offering and ride that wave, if you will. And
Sure.
stay on their offerings rather than trying to create a collaboration of different vendors in an offering, which we tried last year and that didn't work so well. And so it's really riding their coattails to figure out, okay, what's working, what's been working all season, and how can we just hop on that bandwagon and keep talking the same message.
Sure. That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to know each other over the last really 8 weeks in the Intentional Wealth program. It was awesome having you in there and getting connected with everybody else. What were some of your biggest, or I guess what was one of the main reasons that you joined in the first place? I mean, I know we're going through some growth, but what was one of the main reasons you joined in the first place, and what was kind of your main takeaway? A couple of takeaways from being in the program.
I think when you're in an e-commerce business or a small business like we are, it can be really lonely, and you're talking to yourself a lot. You can listen to all the podcasts and you can read all the books and you can try to reach out to your community to find like-minded individuals. And I was having trouble finding that. And so to me, it was a way to meet other people that were better than at this than I am. And so that I could learn and see what they're doing to see what's possible. I just felt like I didn't have enough people surrounding me in order for me to grow, to even be able to see something that I needed to do, unless I saw it through the eyes of somebody else. And that's what I think in that group, I was able to see some incredible entrepreneurs and the things that they are doing that I would have never thought to do. And it was great to get feedback from like our pod and our group too of, I tried that didn't work. Or, it was amazing. So I think for me, it was the learning aspect of it, of trying to connect with others and see what other people are doing.
What's something that you took away that you're like, oh, that's something tremendous, somebody else is doing it? I mean, I know one of the things, I'll prime it because I know is interesting and somebody else might be able to learn from this, so we offer, part of the program is, getting somebody to go through and do user testing on the site.
Yeah.
And you got a user testing recording and you made some changes to the site. Talk through what happened there, because I thought that was very interesting and somebody else can probably take from the same example.
Yeah, it was, and I wasn't expecting what it was. It was the conversion crimes, and I got it, and I thought, well, I've already had my website analyzed, and it was fine. And then they did it, and they had 5 women who weren't even in my industry or didn't even know anything about clean beauty, and had them go through it. And I was like, oh my God, my website is a hot mess. Holy shit, why can't she find that button? Oh my God, why it's right there. Why doesn't she see it? What is going on? And then I realized that my filters were just a disaster. And I don't know, I've been looking at it every day and it looked fine to me and had no idea. And so when we went through that, I called up my web developer and said, oh, God, we got to fix the filters. And he said, I was waiting for you to make that call. It takes a while after you set up a new website for you to be able to see that. You weren't ready yet. Now you're ready. And so we, 5 of us buckled down for an entire week and went through every single product, every single SKU, and built, back end, he built the filters, and we rolled it. And we went from a 1.9% conversion rate to a 3.9 within a week. It was nuts.
That's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's huge,
right? I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. And it's game changing. And I think it's interesting because the conversion crimes, that's a service you can go and hire them. They'll basically send people random a little bit targeted people through, and you just watch them. And from my experience as well with conversion rate optimization, there's like things you can learn and know from research, and then also just watching people navigate your website is so interesting because you get too damn close to your website. You see it every day and you're like, you can't see your baby for what it actually is.
No, you can't. No. I know. After raising 2 of them, you can't see it. Yeah. I like to put it like, it's like watching a football game and you want them to throw the pass to this one guy over there.
Yeah.
And they don't see it. And that's how it was watching these women like do this on my website. I was so mad by the time at the end of it. I was like, oh my God, we have to fix this. I didn't realize. Yeah.
It's such a huge takeaway. It's such a huge takeaway to be able to just get some people looking through and then take that and put it to use and that's awesome.
We need to go through it again. I think just because now we do have the filters up, and I want to see. Okay, I think I got through that part. What's next?
Yeah. Anything else that you've kind of taken away recently that you think would be worthwhile sharing with somebody else who's in your same boat, like kind of continuing to grow and build a business and looking for some breakthroughs?
I think it really is important to find groups to work in that are elevated beyond your knowledge. I know during it, I had gone through, again, a Facebook class, and most of it was over my head. And I was just like, well, that was a waste of my time. But it truly wasn't, because it was an eye-opener for me. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in there. I need to figure that out. So I think finding groups that can elevate your knowledge, or people know more than you do, is everything, right? So stop trying to pretend that you think you know it all, because you don't. There's just no way. And if you can get people they don't even have to be in your same industry. It can be in totally different industries, right? And you can learn so much from what's working for them and what's not. I mean, even like a whole dashboard class, like Sam and his dashboard. I was like, wow, that is amazing. I will never track all those things, but I should start tracking some of these things. And why haven't I been doing that? Because I'm so analytical anyway. Why haven't I been doing that? It just was, an eye-opener to me. So.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like being able to take a step back, it gives you some of the leverage to be able to go higher, which is what you're doing, and continue to grow and reinvest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mandy, thanks so much for coming on. It's so great to talk to you, and I will talk to you soon.